G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Scotty D here from the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network, and welcome into our next installment in our series, How to Play Warhammer 40,000, 10th Edition. Alrighty, everyone. So welcome back into another installment for our How to Play Warhammer 40,000 10th Edition series here on the ATWN, where we're continuing to look at the core rules of the game, as well as how you go about writing army lists and the different ways that you're actually able to play the game as well. For today's video, we're going to be jumping in and looking at the rules for aircraft and the way that they function in a game during the 10th edition rule set of Warhammer 40k, which is going to be really interesting because there's a lot of different units that have got the aircraft keyword, and there's a lot of different minutiae to go in with it. So it's going to be a really good video to dig into these rules. But before we get started, I want to thank everyone who has been joining us here on the YouTube channel as of late. Really appreciate you guys subscribing, liking the videos, commenting as well. Really appreciate that. But let's jump into the meat and potatoes for this one, ladies and gentlemen. So aircraft actually behave quite a bit differently to a lot of other units in the game. And the first element we're actually going to be looking at for aircraft is how they're deployed, because that's something that differs vastly from the way that traditional units are. Now, during the declared battle formation step of the deployment phase of setting up a game, aircraft models actually must start the battle in reserves instead of actually being set up on the battlefield. Now, aircraft are stated as counting as strategic reserves units for all rules purposes. That includes going towards the points limit and the unit count and such as well, when it does include units going into reserves. Now, if the aircraft model can be a transport, only units that are also placed into reserves can be selected to be embarked upon an aircraft transport. So say for example, you're taking a Storm Raven, you've got to make sure that you're putting the units you're wanting to put into it into reserves as well, so that you can put them into the Storm Raven to transport them. Now, the next rule we're going to look at that does impact what we've just talked about a little bit is the hover rule. Now, the hover rule only applies to some aircraft with the hover ability on their datasheet. Now, during the declared battle formation step, you need to declare if any aircraft models with this ability will be placed into hover mode. What this means is if you do place an aircraft in the hover mode instead of deploying it into reserves, until the end of the battle, its movement characteristic is changed to just being 20 inches, and it loses the aircraft keyword and all of the rules associated with being an aircraft model. Now, when they are in hover mode, they don't need to start the battle placed into strategic reserves, but they can be placed into strategic reserves if you desire them to be so, following the normal rules to do so. So you're not kind of constrained by that first instance if you have got the hover ability on your aircraft. Now, the next area of rules we're going to look at for aircraft is how they actually behave in the movement phase, as they do behave quite a bit differently. Aircraft models cannot make any advance or fallback moves and cannot choose to remain stationary. When you actually select an aircraft model to make its move during the movement phase, if there are any enemy units within engagement range of it, you can still make a normal move with the aircraft, which is vastly different to a lot of other units. Now, when you make a normal move with an aircraft model, it only moves in a straight line and then moves a minimum of 20 inches from its starting point. Now, aircraft are actually allowed to move greater than 20 inches in that straight line if you wish to do so. 20 inches is just the minimum for them. Now, once you have finished moving the aircraft your desired distance, then you get to make a single pivot on the spot of up to 90 degrees in either direction. And it does not actually contribute to how far that you have moved the aircraft model, as you do have that unlimited distance for their movement. Now, when making a move for any aircraft model, if the aircraft model's base or any part of the model itself crosses the battlefield edge, or it can't move 20 inches minimum movement, the model ends its current move and is placed into strategic reserves. So it does mean that you need to consider where you're bringing them on and what you're wanting them to do, and kind of map out your movement for the turns 2, 3, 4, and 5 during your game, so you're able to actually get maximum effectiveness out of them, rather than having them jump into strategic reserves during battle round 4 and then come back on battle round 5, for example. Now, as we've already mentioned, there's no upper limit in terms of how far an aircraft model can move, and it's why their movement characteristics will always be listed on their datasheet as a 20 inches plus distance. Now, the next aspect of moving with aircraft is how it actually interacts with other miniatures on the table. When an aircraft unit is selected to move during the movement phase, if the only enemy models that are within engagement range of that unit are other aircraft models, then that unit is still able to make a normal move as well. whenever any model makes any kind of move, it can be moved over enemy aircraft models as if they were not there, and they can be moved within engagement range, but they cannot end their move within or on top of another model or within engagement range of any enemy aircraft, so you can't stop on their bases or within that 1 inch of engagement range. So you need to make sure you've got enough movement to go past the aircraft space and outside of its engagement range when you're moving across it. Now, the last area of rules that we're going to look at for aircraft is that we're going to be looking at how they actually interact during the charge and the fight phase. Now, aircraft units can't declare a charge, and only units that have the fly keyword can select an enemy aircraft as the target of a charge. Now, units that do have the fly keyword are able to end their charge move within engagement range of one or more enemy aircraft units if you're able to do so. Aircraft models are only eligible to fight if it is within engagement range of one or more enemy units that has the fly keyword, and it can only allocate their attacks against those enemy units with the fly keyword as well, and only enemy units with the fly keyword can allocate attacks against the aircraft model during combat. Now, aircraft models are unable to make any pile-ins or consolidation moves during the fight phase, and unless the enemy unit has got the fly keyword, when they make either a pile-in or a consolidation move, they ignore the aircraft model for all purposes of moving towards the closest enemy model. So that means that if you've got an aircraft model that's closer than, say, an objective or another enemy unit, you actually ignore it for making those consolidation moves or moving towards the closest enemy unit when you are piling it as well. And ladies and gentlemen, short and sweet, but that actually covers it for all of the rules for using aircraft models in your games of Warhammer 40,000 in 10th edition. Now, due to the immensity of how far you can move an aircraft and showing that, I'm not able to do any live examples for you in this video, which I do apologize for, as I know some of you do enjoy those, but we will have a couple of more of those in future videos as well, as we keep on going through some of the remaining rules for the game in 10th edition. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy the brief look at the rules around aircraft models and learning about what's involved when using them and how to go about utilizing them as best as you can when, you can put them into positions that can really hinder units' movement, making them have to advance over them if they can't get across their base and engagement range with their regular movement and things like that. There's some really tricky stuff you can do, but you've got to be prepared for how you do that in planning out your movement for them, their pivots and such as well. Now, if you did enjoy this video, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to hit it with a like. If you have any feedback on this video as well, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below, or just leave your favorite emoji as well if you feel like engaging with us. And if you want to catch more of our content, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you're able to be notified as to when we are releasing more content here on the ATWN YouTube channel as well. And if you do want to interact with us more often rather than just here on YouTube, feel free to come and find us over at the Australis TWN Twitch channel, where we do our live streaming for the hobby sessions with myself, or we might have tournament previews as well as tournament coverage on both YouTube and Twitch as well. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.